All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. State of the Nation begins right now. We'll talk about matters, politics, and everything in between there. Let's start off with the National Council of Churches of Kenya, that's NCCK, now calling for the resignation of Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakhumicha for failing to avert the ongoing human resource crisis in the health sector. We also see here that there is announced a bid by a member of the National Assembly, that is the Embakasi East Member of Parliament, Babu Owino. He's filed a notice of motion in the National Assembly seeking to impeach Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakhumicha. And Honorable Mans, I'll start with you on this. Yes. Should she be impeached or should she resign over this health crisis?
Both. She should face both. Okay. You know, the current government has been claiming that it wants to copy Mwai Kibaki government. And you remember in Mwai Kibaki government, you had people like Professor Ogeri, who is a PhD holder in medicine, and who was also a professor of medicine in the university, and also who had practiced medicine for some time. And then that person became a minister for health. You know, there is one time the opposition loaned the minister for interior, you know, so that because he was most qualified to Honorable Gaiseri, yes. The late Gaiseri, God rest his soul in eternal peace. Although he was in opposition, you know, Kenyans found him able to handle interior because the Minister of Health and Minister of Interior and Transport are very critical ministries in a nation. And therefore, from what Nakhumicha has been, how she's been dealing with the health sector, first of all, shows what I want to agree with the Babu Owino, incompetence. We even want to know what is our school trail. You know, we've had very many fake degrees in this country, and people who pretend, you know, pretenders to the throne, people who pretend that they can be able to handle a certain job, yet they are totally unable to handle. I want to agree with the cartoon in the Standard today. Nakhumicha has really been knocked down by the doctors. The Ministry of Health is so important in the country. So many people are dying right now. I've heard reports from Makueni, you know, district Makueni Level 5 hospital. There are a lot of cries all over, you know, the country. Kenyatta National Hospital. And you imagine health means everything. You know, first the government needs to protect life. And upon protection of life, then the other things follow. If you are totally unable to protect life out of a very easy matter, then you're going to have a problem. You need doctors, just like you need pilots, and many other professions. Now, if Nakhumicha herself falls sick, what will happen to her? She needs doctors.
But is it fair to put this squarely at the doorstep of the CS, considering, one, these are historical issues. They are emerging from the 2017 CBA. Also, at the same time, there's an offer that has been put forward by the Public Service Commission from the doctors. They've rejected it. Is it fair to call for resignation, whereas there seems to be attempts to resolve this, and it's not squarely...
Well, whatever is being offered, you know, the doctors are very reasonable. They said out of 10 demands, if 6 are met, it makes a lot of sense. If you just... what the government has proposed is really ridiculous. If they could up their game or could get serious with the matter, it would be better. If the doctors agree to be subdued now, then all that CBA and all those things have been doing over the years are nonsense. So it's a high time we protected doctors in this country. They are the most brainy people. They are people who sacrifice. One of the things they are fighting over is the risk. You know, you remember what happened during COVID and doctors. Most doctors and even student trainees passed on. Their families who had trained doctors, who are being relied on their family are no more. And every other time there are strange diseases and they have to handle risky situations while saving people's life. Okay. Why not give them this particular chance and there's a budget? Okay. So I think she should be, she should stop being difficult unnecessarily, get serious about it or resign.
Okay. Mukwanja, is it fair to place this at the doorstep of the CS, considering, first of all, health is also a shared function? There are parts that are supposed to be handled by the county government, not just the national government.
Several things, Trevor. One is, I reckon the impeachment motion gives us an opportunity as citizens to reassess, reevaluate the competencies of the CS in question. And that is useful because then the issues as to whether she's incapable of resolving the challenges will then be, objectively and fairly assessed on the floor of the House. So the impeachment in its own way, I think, is a good progress to this case, because as much as health is a devolved function, that speaks broadly to the way this government would want to operate. It speaks clearly to the lip service that we've been paying devolution. And it also speaks to the challenges that we have to address systematically to be able to address the issue. But the mere fact that there is a proposal for an impeachment motion, in my view, is a good development to ensure that the CS can actually confirm to us that the members of parliament didn't do a wrong thing, or the appointing authority didn't get it right. But for her to justify. And in any case, the issues that have been raised by the doctors, including the alleged CS's incapability to defend the ministry's budget that would have resolved some of these issues, then can be properly canvassed on the floor of the House to be able to address these issues. But I want to also point out the second thing. While the president has an open check on picking high-level government officials, such as the CSS, I think it's high time for that area to be relooked at and say the president can appoint, but within these particular qualifications. And are we having members of parliament really doing their vetting? I'm a little bit surprised by Honorable Manso's questioning of her, schooling. Were these issues looked into clearly at the time of vetting? I know he is a senator, and he may not have participated in the vetting of the CS, but he's a member of parliament. Were these issues raised, and why are we looking at the competence issues now when those issues would have been highly raised at the time of the vetting? Finally, it is a shared function. We can look at the challenges around devolution as health as a devolved function, but also at the national level, where the budgets are done. I think the World Health Organization has set a specific percentage of how much money should be dedicated to health provision in a specific economy. And I'm not sure whether Kenya, we are meeting that standard. I guess I think it's about 2 or 2.5% of the national revenue or the national budget. Are we, as a national government, also making sure that actually the CS has the available resources to be able to navigate such challenges? It is a problem, and it should be sorted. We have scattered around this issue, whether the human resource in the health ministry should actually be reconsidered as a national function through a health commission. And these issues are issues that the elected leaders like the Senator for Bomet and the Senator for Murkomen here should be responding. And they cannot just say, we cannot just say it's a devolved function. When we have senators here, we should actually go into those depths asking, does this ministry have the sufficient budget now that it's a devolved function? Are we protecting it as a devolved function properly?
Yeah, and I'll allow them to respond whether they have sufficient budget in the ministries because it's a devolved function and they are the ones who dealing with the oversight on that. But Sige, there are two issues here.
Yes.
NCCK wants her to resign. And the member of parliament for Embakasi East has put a notice of motion for impeachment. Is it fair to put this at the doorstep of the CS squarely?
Thanks, Trevor. For starters, by the way, it's easy to say someone is incompetent or someone has grossly violated the Constitution, the way Babu has put it in his motion. It's equally the easiest exit for the NCCK to say, look, you've got to take responsibility and resign. It is, however, not easy to justify and explain why that is warranted in the circumstances. Remember, the role of a cabinet secretary is not just about to avert the strike, such that for us to begin having a conversation about whether or not she should resign, we should look at the whole issue, wholesome. What does the ministry, get involved in from morning through evening, from the beginning of the year to the end? It's therefore, for me, very unfair, especially at this moment, for NCCK, for example, to say that, look, she needs to resign, or she needs to step aside, or she needs to be sacked, whichever. Why? Because, as you well put, which I totally agree, these are historical challenges that we have had. For once, the CBA is for the year 2017-2021. You know, when Nakhumicha got into office, and therefore, if she has made attempts to resolve it, it should even form the basis of, well, she has done it or she has not done it, and not that she has failed. Two, strike is one of the very many other functions that the ministry is undertaking, and therefore, for Nakhumicha's call to resign, especially by NCCK, in this particular status, it is not warranted. The ministry has attempted to do what it can do. They have not abandoned the negotiations, remember. They've not left the doctors out in the streets. There have been sessions leading to now the latest offer, which has flatly been rejected. I mean, for the government to say this is the far we've come, we need to have this continue negotiating as we have the doctors in place. Remember, even them, I've just read in the papers, they're saying, look, we are overwhelmed by the work. We do not have the minimum, because one of the conversations that they had was that they should be allowed to offer minimum services, even as we engage. But they're saying we have got no minimum, meaning basically they're also equally not even affording the opportunity to the government to serve in whichever challenging situation that they are in. And one of the other reasons why it's equally not fair in the circumstances is a situation where we are calling out one when health is a shared function. Remember, when Manzo talks about out of 10, 6 haven't been dealt with, he's not enumerated out of these 10, how many are for county governments, how many are actually squarely lying in the desk of the CS. And therefore, I would really call upon the players in the health sector and now the rest of us out here to grant an opportunity for these negotiations to happen. You know, every other time people sit down, a solution is arrived at. When they approached it on the whole nation approach, an offer was placed on the table. 2.4 billion was offered. In terms of us to pick their, posting letters, I believe, from today. I mean, that is something, that's a step in the right direction. It therefore doesn't warrant that even as much as we are trying to get a solution, however conclusive it could be, at least there is a movement in the right direction.
Okay.
And so we should give her an opportunity.
Yeah.
She has done her best. She has managed the best she could in the circumstances, considering the fact that it is cutting across. It's not only health, by the way, where we are struggling economically. It's all over. We've got agriculture, we've got the teachers, the issue on capitation. It is not that the government is declining to release funds. We are struggling with the hard economic times.
Okay.
And
Manzo,
so,
considering,
not fair at all.
Yeah, considering the fiscal space that the CS is dealing with, why is this entirely a fault? That's the thing I'm still trying to figure out. Because there's the Council of Governors that is also involved. She doesn't speak on behalf of all the governors who have not held their end of the bargain. There's a fiscal space where they're operating. The budget is done June to June. Some of it comes to the National Assembly members who actually should be the ones helping and saying this budget should go here and do this and that. Why is this entirely a fault?
You know what has happened is that although health is devolved, the government has refused to devolve health, and that's why she's totally in trouble. That's why you see...
so she's being a sacrificial lamb here?
No. She's not being a sacrificial lamb. She has been incompetent. She has not handled... I told you, if you had somebody like Professor Ongeri, this matter, whether historical or not, whether devolved or not, I am very sure you would have had the maturity to call even upon the COG, call upon everybody on a round table and sort out the matter. The national government has completely refused to devolve health. And the counties are dealing with a very difficult situation. Most of the machinery was hired from the national government. It has gone without repair. It has failed, like the scanning machines. There are many health troubles, such that even the doctors are finding it not even serving the nation. They've been, struggled by the national government. And as a minister, she should be able to come up with solutions, unless she's directed from elsewhere. And I believe she should be competent enough. If she understood the medical world and how doctors function and are synchronized, then she will be knowing what to do. But unfortunately, as I want to agree with Babu Owino, she's incompetent. And this has come out from the way she has handled the matter. If she's not free to handle the matter and she's being controlled by, let's say, the executive, the president, then the president should also bear the brand. And when Kenyans are suffering, this is not the reason a government is elected to place. This is a reason to cause a revolution in the country. And we are saying if more lives have to be lost, then I want to agree with Babu Owino. All Kenyans then should join the doctors in a strike. We should have demonstrations like there have never been in this country for her resignation and for the health sector to be set right and for the doctors to be listened to. Otherwise, you cannot afford Kenyans just to die as we sit. We are all going to perish if this is how it's going to be. Okay. So this particular minister, really, based on the ground of incompetence, which I'm very sure Babu Owino has done a very thorough research and has all the details, as a very smart legislator, I am sure she's in enough trouble. She'd rather sort out this matter of doctors urgently, or she faces the wrath of Kenyans herself.
Yeah, but Mkwanja, how best should we deal with this? Because there's two issues here also at the same time. The court ruled that they should go back to work and have negotiations as they work. The doctors have said flat out no. This same court had ruled and told the government to implement the 2017 CBA. They did not. So both sides are wrong. So what's the best way of dealing with this going forward?
I think it's high time, and it's quite not interesting that a very outspoken president has interestingly gone mute on these three critical issues. One of them is health, the other one is accidents, and the third one is fake fertilizer. But because we're focusing on health, I think the president needs to clearly tell us some things when he gets back in from Guinea-Bissau and Ghana. So it has reached that level because the people he entrusted this job to do are failing him. And it's also an executive issue because the Council of Governors, again, comes from the majority party. So all the instruments and all the privileges and all the powers to address these issues are firmly within the executive and with the ruling party, UDA. But allow me to also address these three issues. One is my fear with the impeachment, in as much as Honorable Manzo is praising a very good legislator, is I fear that we may be trapped into the game of numbers again, where logic does not prevail, and it's about party A and party B, and again go through the same problem that we're basically trying to reevaluate a candidate that we hired, just the other day. So I'll be keen to ask Kenyans that as the impeachment conversation goes on, let us focus on the objectivity of the issues and the fairness of the process. And if it goes to the mere politicking and the game of numbers, then we'll have lost it. And I fear, again, the CS has invited this to herself with some of the highly political comments he's made. The second issue I would want to speak to is the issue of historical challenges. Yeah. I mean, this is one of the very lame excuses, and a lot of respect to Senator for Bomet, telling us this as a mere argument, I think falls flat on the face of logic. Because one is that this current government, led by His Excellency the President, is not new to these things. Honorable William Ruto was the deputy president in the government that these historical issues, Honorable Senator for Bomet is mentioning, were actually deliberated on. And governments are obligated, administrations are obligated to follow through the legal decisions or legal obligations of the previous governments. So you cannot just say that merely because she showed up the other day. I mean, the technocrats below the PS, it is the entire system that is still there. So it's not enough just to make that argument that is historical, so let's give her time. These things have been there. And one of the most important things is the doctors claim that it has been an issue of failing to defend the budget, and that's what I would want to hear from the honorable senators. Finally, the issue of devolution. Yes, health is a devolved issue, but let us look at it from, the sources of power dynamics. One of them in politics is the budget size. Yeah. And if you look at the health ministry, the health docket today, between the governors collectively and the minister seated at Afi House, who has a bigger chunk of this money that Kenyans have given for this particular service. So to whoever is given, more must be demanded because she's holding a majority of that budget, a bigger chunk of that budget. So we're not at fault at all to demand more from her, even if health is a devolved function.
Okay. Sige, I'll give you a chance to respond to that. And then also as you respond, isn't it concerning that we are quickly deteriorating into a country that disobeys court orders?
Well put. And it's one of those things that almost on a daily basis, I and Manza, who are practitioners in law, would expect a democracy like Kenya and also an enlightened nation. You know, Kenya is enlightened, by the way. The biggest headache is a decision is arrived at, a pronouncement is made by court, and there's not necessarily, I wouldn't call it blatant non-compliance, but an attempt to justify non-compliance. It's go into the practice that comes both from the government and even from the private sector. The unfortunate thing, the government always, or in most of the times, gets away with it, of course, by virtue of the fact that it is the government of the day. However, it is one of those things that personally I wouldn't entertain, I wouldn't accommodate in my everyday life, because the moment the rule of law gets out of the window, where court orders are ignored, we become a country of, the jungle rule, which is worse than having the court system running issues as and when people have gone into. So it's true that even though we had a court order that had directed the government then to implement certain demands by the doctors, that failure does not justify the failure on the part of the doctors to comply. It doesn't mean that the fact that I have not complied as a government warrants equally the other party not to. And so that is also a problem that I, on the one hand, would say the government indeed could have a reason as to why it has not been able to pay. When you look at, listen to the statement that I believe was issued by the head of the public service. The expected salary from the CBA would take up to from 4 billion to 12 billion. Now, that is an amount that should be made available for immediate compliance with the court order by the government. And so, what do? They say, we are offering this 2.4 in order to allow the doctors to go back to the hospital and work. What does that mean? The goodwill exhibited then by the government should have equally attracted a reciprocating goodwill on the part of the doctors to say, look, even if it's about buying time or asking for more time, then this has been placed on the table. But an outright rejection of it completely, of course, it disarms even the government. This is an offer made. This is money made available with the justification that, look, we are headed to and complete implementation. So it's not fair at all also to completely shift full blame on the part of the government and say they have been in contempt of court. Well, when an offer has been made. Two, if we talk about historical issues, we do not attempt to justify that we cannot do them because it was committed by the previous regime. No, we are saying it has taken time. We are saying it was an issue that was discussed. It is still a live issue. No one has said that, look, I cannot do this because it was a conversation that took place in the last regime. And as we all know, every government is perpetual. It doesn't mean that this is a story that we cannot talk about now. No. And so it could have been a policy statement, a policy issue, and dispute that could not have been resolved. but we still need doctors here. We had them then having a dispute with the regime. We have them now, and they are our doctors. We must deal with the issue. So no one is running away from it, and even the CS then is not saying that she's running away from it by the fact that there has been delays in resolving or there has been stalemate in negotiation. That is not to say she has failed.
Okay.
She hasn't, and therefore it answers the concern that my brother here is saying she's incompetent. But when you look at that motion by Babu Owino, I like the way Honorable Manzo is putting it, that you're a politician, you're a senior for that matter, even unlike me. In terms of such motions, you've seen he's only in this motion stated 2 reasons: incompetence as one of the reasons, and 2, violation of the Constitution. I mean, why has she violated the Constitution? Even for starters, you cannot even have that motion pick up. Where has she violated the Constitution? She has attempted, as the CS, running at the policy level to engage the doctors. So that is dead on arrival. We should talk about other things other than that motion.
Okay.
Besides the issues that my friend knows would happen, what are we talking about in an accusation where a CS is accused of...
So you're admitting that the numbers game will come to play?
Obvious that we are in a political environment, but this is completely out because we are dealing with the health of Kenyans.
Okay.
We should therefore be more serious than a violation of the Constitution being one of the charges against the CS.
Okay.
That is dead on arrival. Flatly, it can't take off.
All right.
The other one, incompetence. Okay. Incompetence, she was vetted by Parliament.
Yeah.
Where my colleague sits, where Babu Owino sits, as to whether or not he belongs to the committee that vets, his colleagues in Parliament took her through the process of vetting, and she was approved. It can therefore be an issue to discuss as at now. Okay. And for my colleague to say that, when he started, he talked about historical, and later on, non-historical. He also spoke about the issue on, a shared function and shift blame entirely to now the government, merely because the CS comes from the ruling coalition. The people who sit in health committee are governors. Some of them are also governors from his side of the coalition. So this is a whole government approach that we should place aside politics, run the interest of Kenyans in the health sector. Okay. We all want to do that. I
will take a quick break, but I know Mwanja and Manza have something to say about this, but we wind up on this conversation. Yes.
For me, the motion is populist.
Yes.
I don't agree with Honorable Manzo that it's well thought out, and unfortunately, it will not be fairly, objectively assessed on the floor of the House.
Good. Okay. Manzo, as we wind up on this.
Well, I just want to say that although they want to say the game of numbers, first and foremost, government enjoys perpetuity. So it doesn't matter which government it is. And secondly, let Babu Owino prosecute his motion.
Okay.
Once a motion is brought to the Parliament, it should not be blocked. And this time around, we want members of Parliament to be counted. Those who stand for the people and those against the people.
Okay.
That has been the problem. Now, every elected member must know they'll have to face the people in 2027.
We stand for
and
the people.
And the voting will tell whether you want to be with the people or not.
Or not. All right, let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we talk about the fertilizer crisis now. The NCCK also wants the Mythical Linturi, the CS for Agriculture, to resign on this. It's a crisis. Dan Manzo is part of the Committee of Agriculture. We'll find out what they were told in closed session when they were there on this crisis of the fake fertilizer. Keep your views coming as well at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. We'll see you in just a bit. There are 3 CSs that the NCCK wants to resign. So Nakhumicha from Health, and Mythical Linturi from Agriculture, and Transport, Murkomen. So we're coming to talk about Mythical Linturi in just a bit, right? See you in just a short while.